Lo, the glory of the kings of the people of the Spear Danes in days of old. We have heard tell how those princes did deeds of valor. Oft skilled Sefing robbed the hosts of foemen. Many peoples of the seats where they drank their mead laid fear upon men. He who was first was found forlorn, comfort for that he lived to know. Mighty grew under heaven, throve in honor, until all that dwelt nigh above, over the sea where the whale rides, must hearken to him and yield him tribute. A good king was he. To him was an heir afterwards born, a young child in his courts, whom God sent for the comfort of the people, perceiving the dire need which they long while endured. Aforetime being without a prince, to him therefore the Lord of life, who rules in glory, granted honor among men. Beowulf was renowned far and wide, his glory sprang the air of skilled in Skedaland. Thus doth a young man bring it to pass with good deed and gallant gifts, while he dwells in his father's bosom, that after in his age there cleave to him loyal knights of his table, and the people stand by him when war comes. By worthy deeds in every folk is a man ennobled. Then at his allotted hour skilled the valiant passed into the keeping of the Lord, and to the flowing sea his dear comrades bore him, even as he himself had bidden them, while yet their prince he ruled the Scyldings with his words, beloved, lord of the land, long was he master. There at the haven stood, with ringed prow, ice hung, eager to be gone, the prince's bark. They laid then their beloved king, giver of rings, in the bosom of the ship, in the glory by the mast. There were many precious things and treasures, brought from regions far away. Nor have I heard tell that men ever in more seemly wise arrayed a boat with weapons of war and harness of battle. On his lap lay treasures heaped that now must go with him far into the dominion of the sea. With lesser gifts, no, what did they adorn him? With treasures of that people? Then did those that in the beginning sent him forth alone over the waves, a little child. Moreover, high above his head they set a golden standard, and gave him to ocean. Let the sea bear him. Sad was their heart and mourning in their soul. None can report with truth, nor lords in their halls, nor mighty men beneath the sky, who received that load. Then in the strongholds long was Beowulf of the Scyldings, beloved king of men, renowned among peoples elsewhere. Had the prince his father departed from his home, until thereafter he begat Hilfdene the High, who held the lordship while he lived, aged and fierce in war, over the fair Scyldings. To him were children four born in the world in order named captains of the hosts, Herogar and Hrothgar and Halga the good, and a daughter I have heard that was Onella's queen, dear consort of the warrior Skilfing. Thereafter was fortune in war vouchsafed to Hrothgar, and glory in battle, that the vassals of his own kindred hearkened willingly unto him, and the numbers of his young warriors grew to a mighty company of men. Then it came into his heart that he would command men to fashion a hall and a mansion, a mightier house for their mead drinking, than the children of men had ever known. and there within would he apportion all things to young and old, such as God had granted him, save the people's land and the lives of men. Then have I heard that far and wide, to many a kindred on this middle earth, was that work proclaimed, the adorning of that dwelling of men. In a while, swiftly among men, it came to pass for him that it was all made ready, the greatest of houses and of halls. For if he devised the name of Hierot, even he whose word far and wide was law, his vow he belied not. The rings he dealt and treasure at the feast. The hall towered high with horned gables wide, awaiting the warring billows of destroying fire. The time was not far off that between father and daughter's spouse, murderous hate and memory of a deadly feud should awake again. Then the fierce spirit that abode in darkness grievously endured a time of torment. In that day after day he heard the din of revelry echoing in the hall. There was the sound of harp and the clear singing of the minstrel. There spake he that had knowledge to unfold from far off days the first beginning of men, telling how the Almighty wrought the earth, a veil of bright loveliness that the waters encircle. How triumphant he set the radiance of the sun and moon as a light for the dwellers in the lands, and adorned the regions of the world with boughs and with leaves. Life too he devised for every kind that moves and lives. Even thus did the men of that company live in mirth and happiness, until one began to work deeds of wrong. A fiend of hell, Grendel was that grim creature called, the ill-famed haunter of the marches of the land, who kept the moors, the fastness of the fens, and unhappy one inhabited long, while the troll-kind's home for the maker had prescribed him with the race of Cain, that bloodshed for that Cain slew Abel. The eternal Lord avenged. No joy had he of that violent deed, but God drove him for that crime far from mankind. Of him all evil broods were born, ogres and goblins and haunting shapes of hell. And the giants too, that long time warred with God, for that he gave them their reward. Then went Grendel forth when night was come to spy on that lofty house to see how the ring-danes after the ale drinking had ordered their abode in it, and he found therein a lordly company after their feasting, sleeping, sorrow, they knew not the unhappy fate of men, that accursed thing, ravenous and grim, swift was ready, 30 knights he seized upon their couch. Thence back he got him gloating over his prey, faring homeward with his glut of murder to seek his lairs. Thereafter at dawn with the first light of day was Grendel's strength in battle made plain to men. Then was weeping after feasting appraised, a mighty cry at morn. The glorious king, their prince, proven of old, joyless sat his stout and valiant heart, suffered and endured sorrow for his knights. When men had scanned the footprints of that foe, that demon cursed, too bitter was that strife, too dire and weary to endure, nor was it longer space than but one night ere he wrought again, cruel murders more, and grieved not for them. His deeds of enmity and wrong, too deep was he therein, thereafter naught far to seek was the man who elsewhere more remote sought.